This episode of Left of the Fade discusses many topics that may be triggering to sensitive listeners. Subjects include racism, police brutality, slavery, xenophobia, oppression, and other abuses of power.
Andranati Elvin, Shemlin's Dwarvan Canaria alike.
And welcome everyone to Left of the Fade, the Thedosian podcast for one human, that's me, Rose.
And one elf, that'd be me, Thorn, from opposite sides of the Frostback Mountains.
Delve the deep roads of the Dragon Age franchise to shine light on some topics that we feel haven't been given enough attention.
Please join us as we journey through the dark and the light.
And walk the road less traveled, to the left of the fade. Hello, everyone. Welcome back after a period of time away. We are back.
A little bit of a what do we call it if we're in the Vatican? A sabbatical. That's it.
A sabbatical. Yes.
That's a sabbatical.
Took a sabbatical.
The elf was on mental health holiday.
How are you, Thorn?
I'm doing okay.
Okay.
Things have been a bit difficult, but, you know, life is life and we get on with it and get through it. And, you know, at the end of the day, there's nighttime and cake. So everything is fine.
Yeah, there's cake, yes. Yes, that is true. It's always nice to have cake.
And cheese. But beyond that...
Oh my gosh,
beyond
I have
the cake
cheese.
and the cheese.
Cheese. Alistair, are you here?
Yeah.
Did you...
Always. He's always
Has Alistair entered the chat?
Alistair has entered my mind as he always does.
Entered. I don't think he ever... He's always been there. I don't think he had to enter because he's always been there.
Shh. Don't make it obvious. It's meant to be a low-key crush. Helen finds out I am dead.
Low key? Are you kidding me? Okay, Thorn, anyone...
Hi, I get that.
Anyone listening to this knows that your crush for Alistair is not low-key. It may be slightly less key than Cullen, but it is not low-key.
Frankly, there are few things less high-key than my love for Cullen, let's be completely frank here.
Okay.
Yes.
So, what we are going to be diving into something a little heavy now. It's actually going to be a two-parter episode because there's a lot. So at this point, we're going to say that we are going to be going through some really, like, deep and concerning, like, current event, like, stuff. So if you are, how should we say it? Like, if things like racism issues and oppression and, xenophobia, if talking about the police brutality, if any of that bothers you, triggers you, please do not listen because that is definitely going to be coming up. So yeah, what we are
expect a heated elf.
Expect the what?
A heated elf.
Yeah. Well, it is going to be very heated. Yes. So what we are going to be talking about today is, well, it's Dragon Age in general, but we're really focusing on Dragon Age 2.
Yeah, mainly focusing on Dragon Age 2, because it seems to have the most, not necessarily the most, but the most obvious crossovers between, you know, the computer game setting and what is going on now, and what has been going on for the past few years.
Yeah, it's Dragon Age 2 and its modern relevance. Even though these issues persist in all of the games, you know, racism, xenophobia, the issues with, you know, like the Guard, and I guess in some sense you could say like the Grey Wardens and stuff. It seems to be the most, like you said, obvious with Dragon Age 2 because Dragon Age 2 reads like it is a social justice story.
Yeah, it reads very much like a social commentary. And I'm here for that personally. there I always am. Me in politics, yay. Like, but yeah, it definitely does read as a commentary on modern society. Although I'm not entirely sure personally of whether or not it makes much of a difference in the modern or fantasy setting. I don't think it would really make much of a difference what setting you put it in. Frankly, what it seems like the entire story is people suck, personally. But that could just be how I'm interpreting it.
Yeah.
Because I think people suck, but
No, you're right. You're right. They do. It's also important to point out that there are a lot of good people in existence as well.
Definitely.
But there's a lot of sucky people out there as well. But and while these, of course, these issues have always happened, always been around the world, and as a white person, I did not see it till recently, whereas other people have said, yeah, this has always been an issue, whatever. Because with, the internet and stuff and the way information has fed these days, and the fact that people they're just tired of it, and they're finally, like, standing up and resisting. We see it more, or at least I see it more. And I recognize that that's coming from a place of privilege that I didn't see it before, because I was never in a group that was, except for being a woman, of course, I was never in a group that was oppressed. But yeah, it's, so I think it's a little easier to see in Dragon Age 2 right now, and it almost feels more relevant than ever.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to be getting into today.
Yeah, so, if you like your heart with holes in, continue listening. That's what it comes down to. It's like, ow, the pain.
Yeah, that's true. There's lots of pain in Dragon Age. It's...
I love it. And the deep sighs begin.
Deep sighs, yeah.
Yep, but not the nice kind. These are the, oh my god, what's wrong with the world deep sighs.
Yeah. Okay. Are you ready to go? So let's start with the immigration and refugees story.
Yes, which is a particularly important one in my personal opinion, given all of the, let's say, horrendous shit going on in the Middle East right now.
Mm-hmm.
With Afghanistan and stuff. So I think it's really important to go over immigration and specifically refugees right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because, when we look at how Hawk and her family are treated, they're refugees from the Blight, coming from Lothering, and they're essentially treated like scum.
And you know what? I think that's something people forget about a lot. They forget that, you see the beginning and stuff and all that, but then it's like, Hawk has made a name for themselves. Like, it's also the thing where Leandra was originally from Kirkwall, so it's not something that's thought about, but Hawk is a refugee. Hawk and their siblings.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and the very fact that they are literally fleeing for their lives, and yet are treated like lesser than just because they're not from where they turned up, is that's frankly disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, you would have thought that their mother, Leandra, being from there would have made a difference, but it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Not that makes how they're treated any better or worse, in my opinion. It's a shit show the entire way through. But you would have thought that, like, there would have been at least a little bit of... But then you take into consideration how their uncle lost all of their money, and any influence that the family might have had at that point went poof along with it. I think it's a statement on how, frankly, anyone could be put in a situation like that. and how maybe we should be humanizing refugees more than alienating them and dehumanizing them and treating them as though just because they come from somewhere else and because they don't speak our language and because they came here, whether illegally or in some manner that some other people might not agree with, that doesn't make them in less need of support and of empathy and just being shown basic humanity.
Just real quickly, how this is just occurring to me. You know how in the game many times there will be like NPCs or whatever say to Hawk, "Hey, you, Ferelden," or whatever. How can they tell just by looking at them they're Ferelden? Because, in real life, people have this awful, terrible assumption that because someone has, an accent or a skin color, that they're not from there, but you can design Hawk to look however you want. And even then, within the family, like, they don't look any different from the other people in Kirkwall, and their accent isn't any different. Like, how can they just tell that they're Ferelden?
Remember, in the game, they like to make comments about how people from Ferelden smell like dogs.
Oh, right. So after like a year or so, they would smell like they would still smell like, really?
Apparently, it must be apparently built into the blood or something. I don't know.
Huh? Okay.
I don't know. Maybe my body leave a hell of a stench behind. I haven't got a clue. Although if they're anything like Staffordshire Bull Terriers, I would imagine probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was just sort of a question that just occurred to me, but I was like, wait a second.
It's a bloody good question to ask, because it kind of ties into the whole idea of othering people just because they don't come from where you are. Like, what exactly do you use to other people? Is it their accent? Is it their hair colour? Is it the colour of their eyes, their skin? Is it the religion that they follow? Using anything.
That's the other thing. Everyone, like, it's, for the most part, like, Kirkwall is an Andraste worshipping place. Just like Ferelden is. Like, it's, it's super confusing.
It doesn't make any sense. But then again, it wouldn't make any sense to people like me and you, Rose.
Yeah.
It's not going to make sense to people like me and you. Yeah. We have these things called open minds. And, independent thought. We have those things. We know that not everybody is the same, and just because some people are from a place doesn't make them all like that. All like the stereotype or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Can I just take a random second to say I'm so glad that I am not on camera right now for like the back, the behind the scenes stuff that I usually shoot. I'm not doing that for this episode. Okay. Because I look like a hot mess. So let's just be glad I ain't doing that today, because I look like shit. But feel free to leave that in or cut it however you see.
Okay. I'll decide.
Give it a listen and pick and choose as you please.
Yeah, so there are, throughout the game, you, like I sort of alluded to before, you see people saying, like, hey, you, Ferelden, you smell like this or whatever. I don't think they don't say verbatim, go back to where you came from, but I feel like that is there.
Definitely a heavy implication of get back to where you came from with most of the interactions between, Ferelden people from Kirkwall. Marchers in general, it seems as though have that sort of Ferelden sort of.
But I mean, it's like people don't understand, and this is, I'm talking about both Dragon Age and real life, so they don't seem to realize there isn't always, they can't go back where they quote unquote came from. If they are an immigrant, they can't. Like, their home is either destroyed or it's war-torn, or, like, it's just in general dangerous to be there. Like, many times, they did not choose to leave. The Hawks family did not choose to leave. You know? And
they were forced.
They literally had nothing but the clothes on their back.
Yep.
And
a handful of it.
Ugh.
But no, I completely get you. Like, literally, they ran with nothing but what they had on them. And they're treated like the worst. They're treated like cockroaches. Like vermin. At first. And it's only, the thing that really gets me, right, is society seems to have, and it's society as a whole, it doesn't seem to matter what country it is, but society as a whole seems to have this thing, right, where somebody will be a refugee or some form of immigrant into a country, and they are fucking worthless until they do something that gets them noticed. Take, for example, Freddie Mercury. Second generation immigrant, as far as I remember, right? Who experienced racism his whole life growing up, right? Queen comes along and all of a sudden he's the best British thing that's ever existed.
Which I want to point out, and this is totally, like, I will admit my failing in this, like, this is totally on me. Until I was like 22 or 23, I thought Freddie Mercury was white.
Yeah?
Yes.
It's kind of understandable. There's nothing ever said specific. I can kind of get that. Because there's nothing explicitly said. If you don't know that...
But it's like, just looking at him now, like, okay, yeah, like, maybe, quote-unquote, white passing. Yeah, maybe. But
to an extent, yeah.
But now it's like, yeah, obviously he wasn't, like, it... And maybe that's why he did as well, because he was quote-unquote white passing.
I do wonder if that might have been
the case, yes. But no, you are absolutely right about the thing about getting noticed, you know?
I just think that it's absolutely ridiculous that people who are in that sort of situation, who have to be brought in to another country for whatever reason, but mostly for negative reasons because they don't have anywhere to be where they are. I think that it's horrendous that they leave these horrible, dreadful situations behind in the hope of somewhere where their life is going to be better, only to be subjected to abuse. Simply because they're in a place that the people who are already there don't think they should be. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Genuinely think that it's quite a pathetic way to view other human beings. I mean, as an elf. I'm speaking from the elf perspective.
No, I get ya. I
don't understand why. I don't know if it's the autism or what, but I just don't understand it. Like, all these lines and everything that are drawn all over the world, the maps, they're all fucking imaginary. The lines are imaginary, right, they are. Thought up by people. They're not real.
No, they're not.
Exist. You know, borders are fake. They're drawn in your imagination. And the sooner people understand that, the better.
They're not natural borders. They're any, like, if there is a physical border that exists, like a wall.
It was built by people.
It was built, yeah.
Natural borders are like rivers and stuff.
Yeah.
Rivers that cut straight through a body of land. That would be a natural border. And you could maybe understand there being the creation of a country on either side of that. But that shouldn't necessarily mean that the people from one country can't get in the other. Just because there's a river runs through the middle. It's bollocks.
Yep. And then the immigration doesn't just refer to Hawk, but also the Canary as well. And it's, you know, it's what's that word? It's like it's like they get the gentrification. They've basically gentrified. They have gentrified the Canary. It's like, when all of these people talk about, like, we get refugees who come in here, and then you've got, people that are full of hate and very discriminatory. They're like, oh yeah, we can welcome them here, but put them in like this little community and just have them separate from the rest of us, so like they don't, so they don't, like, because they're afraid of them, quote unquote, infecting the community or whatever. It's all bullshit. But like that's exactly what they do to the Canary. They basically say, oh, you guys can't go home because your ship was just, because they want the Coslin book. And so they're like, okay, well, you can live here, and we're just gonna isolate you all in this tiny little area.
Yeah, we'll stick you all in this little corner, fence it off, and that's where you can live, where we're all safely locked away from you.
Yeah, and it's presented as like a sanctuary, but it's just a way to close them off from everyone else because they're afraid of them.
It's essentially imprisonment.
It is. It's imprisonment.
It's, oh, you got stuck here because your ship got wrecked here. Well, we'll stick you here, and you can't leave where you are. You stay here, and we'll give you some food through the bars.
And that's another side of it, is they don't want to be in Kirkwall. They want to leave, but they can't.
They're desperate to go home.
Yeah.
And while it's a different situation, it's still very, very heavily laden with racist and xenophobic tones. Heavily laden with racist and xenophobic tones. The entire reason why they don't like the Canary is because they are a different religion.
Yeah.
And they do not trust the religion.
Which exactly brings us into another point of how it's relevant to real life as religion conflicts.
Yeah, and the lack of ability to separate church from state, essentially.
And in fact, there isn't really a separation of church and state in Dragon Age. Like, the Chantry is very, like, wound in with, if it's sort of reflecting, like, medieval Europe and stuff and all that, that was a thing, for sure. And even, these days, they're supposed to be, in the real world, they're supposed to be separate from each other. But I know, especially in America, I don't know so much about Scotland or England or whatever. But it's still, even though it is technically officially separated, it definitely isn't within the politics. You can see that it is not separate.
Abortion law?
Yeah, it is not separate.
It's not separate at all. In the UK, it's difficult to explain. While we most definitely have what I would refer to as religious zealots in positions of power, like your Jacob Rees-Moggs, there is much more of a separation because the UK is a lot more. It leans a lot less heavily on the God stuff. And that goes for pretty much most religions here, frankly.
Well, it's okay. It's okay if you're in a position of power and you have faith. Just don't let that faith inform your opinions unless it benefits everyone.
Oh, see, now that's where that's where it differs, because, like, the ones that I'm talking about, like I said, your Jacob Rees-Moggs, they do. Okay. They do allow their faith to influence their decisions and how they vote in Parliament and stuff like that, and it's frankly disgusting. What's even more disgusting is when they allow the position they were born in to influence their voting decisions in Parliament, like fox hunting and stuff like that. It's just, frankly, I just think any reason to abuse your power because this is what I believe and it should be what everybody believes is bullshit. Bullshit. But it all falls back to the Thorn hates most human beings thing.
Yeah, no, you're right. I am the same. You know, it's like, for as many people that I have, one person disappoint me for every one person that gives me hope, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like it's about even.
It seems to be pretty cut even these days, yeah. I mean, when we were younger, there seemed to be more people giving us hope than people taking it the fuck away, but no, these days it's a hell of a lot more evenly balanced.
Mm.
And I don't like that. I don't like that.
No, I agree.
There definitely needs to be more nice people who actually give a shit about everyone, not just themselves. The problem is, it seems to be in the modern age, we're sliding further and further into a world where most people are like, I'm alright, Jack. And as long as I'm alright, fuck everybody else. Which is a bit depressing. It's a bit depressing.
It is, but I think I'm trying to be the hopeful. I'm sure a lot of people felt that way during the, you know, like the civil rights era, and then, you know, I think it is constantly, the world is constantly doing this. People may not agree with me, but this is the way I see it.
Cyclical.
It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Mm-hmm. You know,
and then on top of that, it's also cyclical.
Yeah.
It's a cyclical thing where it's like things seem to get better, and then they go to shit again. Mm-hmm. And then they get better, and then they go to shit again. It's like we're the top of the wheel, the bottom of the wheel, the top of the wheel, the bottom of the wheel, and it's getting tired, frankly.
It is tiring.
I turned 37 this year, and I am so done with it already. Like, done with it.
I hit the big 3-0, and
oh my god, Rose, you're so old. You're all of 30, oh my god. I'll be 40 in like 2.5 years. Peace.
It's hit me harder than, I think, just not like in and of itself. I'm going off topic here, but I'm gonna say this. In and of itself, like, I don't mind being 30, but it's just that I think the world has certain expectations of me because of my age, and that's the part that's depressing.
Yeah.
So,
like, the world expects you to have your life all sorted out and be all settled and everything's cool, and you're a fully functioning adult by the age of 30.
Yeah, no, I'm only just
like that?
I'm only just figuring my life out, you know, and it's
Rose, I didn't even know who I was till I was about 35. Seriously. Yeah. Honestly, I mean, when you consider the fact that I didn't even realise that I was non-binary until 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Like, and it took me a year to come to terms with it and start telling people. You know, people have too high expectations on people based on their age. Now, I can never be 100% sure. It's a quote I love to use, while I can never be 100% sure whether or not it's genuinely attributed to him, but it is often attributed to Albert Einstein. If you judge a fish its entire life on its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its entire life thinking that it's stupid, right? Mm-hmm. You can look at this the same way, right? If we expect everybody to have achieved the same shit by the same age, those of us who don't are going to be made to feel like shit.
Yep.
And it's bullshit, because everybody's different. We're all different. So why we're all expected to act the same, I don't know.
Because society, and with the sprinkling of
we live in a society!
Yep.
So that's become such a meme these days, it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. But, yeah, getting back to the topic at hand, not to completely go absolutely off, we'll get back to religion. When it comes to, like, when you see how Kirkwall is run, and how everybody seems to sort of defer to her that runs the chantry, mm-hmm. I don't know, it sits really uncomfortably with me. it sits very uncomfortably with me. To put all of that power in one person's hands with no advisors, no, like, democratic process, no anything like that. That sits really uncomfortably with me. I am very much for a democracy.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it very difficult when there are any sort of regimes where there's a single person in charge. And I mean, like, fully in charge. I don't mean like a president or a prime minister or something. I mean like the one person that's in charge of literally everything, and everybody comes to them, and their say is, like, Russia.
Yeah. What do they call that?
I have no idea.
There's a word for that. It's gonna bug me now. When one person is in charge of everything, there's no checks or balances or anything like that.
Dictatorship?
Is it a dictatorship? I mean it is, but I mean technically, the technical definition.
Oh, I know what you mean, but I cannot for the life of me think of the word right now.
Autocracy.
Alright.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes. Aye. That's where one person is in charge of everything.
I mean, you could have an autocracy and a dictatorship all in one, but...
Yeah, the two aren't mutually exclusive.
No.
In fact,
They're
if
not.
anything, they have a tendency to go hand in hand.
Yeah, they do. They go hand in hand.
They do have a tendency to, yes.
But yeah, so, like, if you look at, like, a lot of the rulers and stuff, among humans, in Dragon Age, it's different for Dalish and Qunari and whatever, although, in a way, I suppose you could say Qunari, like, their system of faith dictates how they have everything set up. So in a way, it's Qunari too. But a lot of the leaders and stuff have really woven religion into their practices, and even like something like the circles. It's magic is made to serve man, not rule over him. Like, that comes from the chant. Driven. Yeah. And this whole thing about caging mages into these circles was all them basically trying to use the chant to justify doing this.
Is it frankly any different than what they do to Sarabas? In the Kun?
Yeah, I mean, that's very similar. It's actually, in some ways, the Qunari is similar.
And this is kind of where it comes to the point where people in real life seem to forget how often the things they believe cross over with other religions.
That's true. I'm only just, as you made that point, this is only just coming to me. I'm like, actually, yeah. Which I knew was going to happen when we were recording this. I knew we were going to find stuff.
Do you know how many Christians didn't know that Muslims believe in Jesus? It's an unbelievable amount. It's frankly staggering.
I mean, I guess I've never personally experienced anyone who did, because as far as... I mean, like, I didn't experience any Christian who believed that or didn't know that. Because a lot of them view him as a prophet, right? That he was just don't view him as the Son of God.
He is a prophet. He's not given the importance he has in the Christian faith, but he is someone that they believe in, somebody whose word they looked up to. And when you think about the fact that, like, quite often, a lot of the principles, and this goes for, like, all religious books in monotheistic religions, all of them, they all have a list of things that you can read through all of the books and you can pick out similarities everywhere.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure.
Everywhere.
Absolutely.
And frankly, the overall theme, the overall message is the same. It's the same. It's treat other people how you want to be treated. Be nice. Don't be hateful for no reason. Yes, bring down wrath upon those who fucking hurt you, but don't do it for no reason. Don't go after people because of certain reasons, you know. And the bit that you know, I have issues with monotheistic religions.
Yep, I know.
You and I have discussed it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the religions themselves.
It's problematic people when they try to use religion to support their problematic practices.
Yes, it's when they don't, like, if they're gonna be following certain things from their religious books, follow all of them. Follow all of them. If you're gonna do your religion properly, you know, don't do this, don't do that. Like, if you're gonna be beating people over the head with bits of whatever book, first make sure that you're following all of the rules.
And also, actually dig deep and do your research and understand where the rules come from and why and what they actually mean. Not that I'm bitter about this or anything. Not that I've had experience about this or anything.
No, not at all. No. That's not religious trauma coming out in the podcast at all. Yes, absolutely. If you're going to talk about anything, make sure you do your research. And frankly, that goes for anything in life. If you're going to talk about anything, do your goddamn research and don't talk about it at all. Because, you know, if you don't talk about it, if you don't research it, you don't know what you're talking about, you really shouldn't be talking about it.
By the way, I just feel like this is a good moment to say, just because it's timely and it's a hot button topic right now. Googling stuff about the COVID vaccine is not doing your research. If you're only... You have not done your research unless you are a scientist who's studying diseases and vaccines, who has worked with other scientists who peer review stuff, okay? We talked about the fear of Canary earlier and how they just kind of want to shove them in the corner and be like, here, stay there, you have an area. This whole xenophobia, which is what it is, xenophobia towards Canary, is similar to, at least here, the xenophobia we have seen. It's a lot of other groups, but I think Islam and Muslims seems to be the most prominent one.
At the minute, definitely. In fact, for the past probably about 20 years.
20 years, actually, yeah, definitely.
For about 20, 21 years, Islamic xenophobia has been rampant. And frankly, you know, I've dated Muslims. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys was one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life, right? It's never the religion. It's the human beings behind it that's the problem.
Yep.
And this has always been my issue. I never understood. Like, I remember when it started. We all know why it started, right? And I get it. I can understand the initial reaction, right? But after a while, and after a bit of looking into shit, and doing said research we discussed before, you know, you should have an idea of how these people actually act, because they just are like everybody else. They might have a slightly different rule set, they might have a slightly different, you know, set of, slightly different set of morals. But it's literally, it's shifted, it's such a minuscule shift, and yet it's treated as such a chasm of difference.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfair. The more recent one that I've seen, and this is something that I've seen and not experienced personally, but I do have friends and family members who have experienced this personally, is xenophobia against pagans, most specifically Norse pagans. And I understand the reason for that as well, because there has been an insurgence of white supremacists into Norse paganism recently. Mm-hmm. And it really fucks me off, because these wankers haven't done their research. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to the faith that they pertain to actually, they claim that they actually practice this religion and they don't have a fucking clue about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it really enrages me, because then people who don't know that these people who've gone out and gotten Mjolnir tattoos, or who have gotten, Vault nuts, or, they've gone out and gotten any form of Norse pagan imagery tattooed on them, and then gone out and done something like ridiculous, like, I don't know, storm the goddamn Capitol. We then get tarred with that brush. I've already, for my whole life, I've been fighting against people tarring everybody with the same brush because they're a Muslim, or because they're black, or because they're English, or because they're American, or because they're fucking anything. I've spent my whole life, because I've never understood it. I have never understood it. We all bleed red. What the fuck? The idea that you would treat anybody differently. If anybody's, introspective for all of 5 minutes and thinks, how would I feel if somebody else treated me differently because of my religion, because of my race, because of my fucking accent, because of my anything that is either within or without your control, but is something that,
Mm-hmm.
it's an intrinsic part of your life and what makes you you. The idea that anybody would treat anybody differently because of that, just it's anathema to me.
Mm-hmm. No, and I agree with you. I'm not going to say it is the same thing, because it is not. It is far, 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 far from the same thing, and I know that. But I feel like when I lived in England for like 4 months, that I did experience just the tiniest window of discrimination, because people would hear my accent, and it'd be like, oh, you're American, which is fine, but then they'd make assumptions about me based on that. And
yeah, like you're stupid, probably. I mean, that is,
mm-hmm.
Let's be completely honest here, that's the number one bad misrepresentation of Americans that is out there, that they're all thick. And it's not the case. This is what I was saying. It's why I've spent my entire life sticking up for people that are different, because just because they're different doesn't make them wrong, or you shouldn't be around or whatever. That's not something. I'm sorry you went through that, Rose. I mean,
like I said, it was only a few people, and it is nowhere near some of the experiences other people have gone through. I mean, that whole experience, just being there for the few months that I was, I think I list it as a huge pivotal point for me in my change of perspective and worldview and politics and all that, because I was in an entirely new place and saw in an not entirely new, but some of the politics were different, some of the culture was different and everything. So like, I probably would have made much more progress a lot earlier on if I had gone to a country where they didn't speak English. People looked different than me, Some ways I kind of regret not doing that, but it was expensive.
Look, decisions were made, things happened, the past is the past now. We just move on with what we have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, getting into things like talking about how, like, specifically we can compare the Kunari to Islam and Muslims, and I would say Dalish Elves almost pretty closely to Norse pagans in general.
I specifically pointed out the Kunari just because it seems to be more prominent in Dragon Age 2, but you're absolutely right that
it's also, just to take a second, the reason why I say that is because of the way that it's viewed, because of the way the Kun and the Kunari are viewed in Dragon Age as a whole, but specifically in Dragon Age 2. Everybody seems to be under this impression that they have this overwhelming desire to take over the whole goddamn world and make everybody fall under the Kun, right? And it doesn't quite work like that.
I never got that impression.
It's something that Solus points out in the third game. He seems to be under the impression that the Kunari want everybody to fall under the Kun.
Maybe I just wasn't paying attention because I don't really pay that much attention to Solus, but
I think the reason why I think the reason why I did pay so much attention is because, you know how I feel about something.
Yes, yeah.
My little red boy. And to top it all off, because of how I feel about the whole xenophobia issue, because I've seen a lot of people, I've heard a lot of people saying that Muslims want to take over the world and have everybody under Islam, and that is again not the case. This is 2021. Can we all grow the fuck up now, please, and start accepting that no, they just want to practice their religion in peace. Leave them the fuck alone. Let them do it.
I was told that I haven't read it myself, but I was told that the Quran actually says it is a sin to force Islam on other people.
Yep, it does.
Which goes back to the whole thing that you said about many religions having so much in common, because that's what the Bible says too.
Mm-hmm. There's no point in forcing people to... And do you know what the best of it is?
What?
Monotheistic religions have been, historically, the worst for forcing people to follow their religion.
Oh, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. As someone who does follow a monotheistic religion, I agree with you.
Oh, no. We've had this discussion as well, was it?
Yeah.
Because, we discussed how my intense dislike of Christianity stems from the fact that my ancestors were persecuted, some of them being crucified because they wouldn't convert. So, we've had this discussion, we know.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving into the whole thing about how it can be looked upon that, specifically with the Kunari and Muslims and the Dalish and Norse paganism, I wanted to actually look back slightly.
Okay.
Into the whole, the discussion about, like, the Kunari being walled off from the rest. What isn't mentioned is alienages.
Yeah, alienages,
which are not just, emergency measures for the Kunari. That's an established thing that's gone on for a long time, and this is where in the city the elves live. So,
it's another form of gentrification.
Yes, it is. It's just, let's just stick these here so they're out of our way. And they're not allowed to leave. But then again, I do believe in the first Dragon Age Origins, the only reason we weren't allowed to leave the alienage at that point was because of what was actually happening in Denerim at the time. Which is fair. Wouldn't want anybody wandering about in Denerim back then.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you see, isn't it the elves that are more likely to take the lower paying jobs and the jobs that basically nobody wants?
It's because they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
More the higher paying jobs. They literally, there are so many of them that were freed from slavery only to go into these hovels and work for pennies, but another
relevance to real life.
They hold this belief that it's at least better than being under the boot of someone. But when they go out, they're still under someone's boot. They just don't realize it.
And that's exactly what people of color felt and still feel. That they were, freed from slavery in 1865, but they still weren't free.
No. They still aren't. I mean,
no, they still aren't.
They account for one of the highest fucking populations in prison.
Yeah.
And it's systematic. It doesn't just fall... It's a fucking systematic issue that comes down to the way that they have been treated since.
Prison was the solution to still have slavery.
No, absolutely.
Yep. Prison is slavery. It's a justification for slavery.
Speaking of prison...
Yeah! And
that makes a fucking rather convenient segue to our next point.
Yeah.
The guards and policing and politics. I'm gonna trigger a few people, I imagine. Right? But, I can't stand the police as an organisation. Haven't been able to my entire life. I've never been able to stick the police.
I am sure a lot of people are going to agree with you.
I refuse to be even near one of these Blue Lives Matters fucking lunatics. Mm-hmm. And I'll say it straight out. They're loonies.
Can I ask, and I'm just going to reveal myself to be very, very stupid here, but I genuinely don't know because American news only shows American news. Did you guys have the same sort of similar situations with police there as we did here?
What do you mean?
Like the whole defund the police situation. Like, are people calling out against police to like quit their jobs and stuff? And yeah.
Right now, the UK is up in arms at the police.
Okay.
Because very recently, a woman was kidnapped, raped, and murdered by a policeman.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah. So, he was off duty and in plain clothes and in a rented car. So, you know, at the moment, we're a bit up in the air with the whole policing thing here, too. Just to speak about an absolute fucking absurdity of this entire situation. You know, they actually suggested that one of the things that women could do in order to feel safer when it comes to this situation is resist arrest if they believe that their police officer might not be a genuine police officer. Excuse me, that shit gets people killed.
Yeah. Not to mention, isn't resisting arrest a crime?
Another crime, yes. So, you're suspected of a crime, you resist arrest, add another crime to what you've already done. They now have twice the reason to arrest you. You know, it's fucking ridiculous. But this is how women are supposed to deal with this right now. Resist arrest and phone the police. Yeah, because that's helping.
Yeah, phone the police, even though they're oh my god.
Just read the fucking room, guys! Jesus. Sorry.
How this relates to Dragon Age is, unfortunately, you do see. I'm gonna admit, even though it took me a while to, not just a while, it took me until the situation happening with the police in 2020 to really see that the guard was, I knew there were people in the guard that were problematic. I did not see that the guard itself was problematic until this happened. In fact, there was a lot of stuff that I did not see until things happened within the last couple years.
It's only when something like that is really dumped on your doorstep that you do sort of go, whoa, hold on a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, this resonates.
They are often not held accountable for their actions and sometimes believe they're above the law.
Yep. And that's an internal thing. That's an internalized issue as well, because it's not the people outside the police that aren't holding them accountable. The people outside of the police and the guard and all that, they want them to be held accountable. It's those inside. It's an internal issue, and it goes back. For me, it goes back to how the police force, certainly in America, was founded, how it began. It's been an intrinsic issue ever since then. And, you know, I think it sort of follows on over here, because over here isn't any fucking better, you know. Over here isn't all that fantastic neither. Don't let anybody fool you. We still have cases over here where minorities are unfairly fucking targeted simply because they are minorities, with some of them ending up dead, and it's absolutely disgusting.
You're right. It is.
It's not. It shouldn't be a thing, and it's something which I think goes back. It goes into how the police force is organised. Far too many what people in my family would describe as old boys. You know, the ones that have been doing it for years and years and years and years and still remember what it was like way back when. Who are in charge and who are training people up into those positions, and therefore pushing their own fucking thoughts and their own way of things working onto those people. When what should actually be happening is that people who show exemplary fucking capabilities in the field should be elevated to positions of power where they can then show people how it's done. Doesn't matter, it shouldn't matter about age, religion, fucking gender, socioeconomic background, all of that bollocks shouldn't matter. But then again, this is my opinion on everything, including politics, that everybody should have a fair shot, not just people who are born into it.
And I agree with that opinion.
Families did it. You and I agree on so many things. Like, this is essentially an echo chamber, this podcast.
We are evidence. You can be different religions and still come to the same opinion.
Because our religions could not be any more different. Like, they just, I mean, I've got like 100 gods. I've got like 100. A whole pantheon.
Yeah. I have one. Sometimes 3. Depends on how you look at it.
Well, it depends on what mood he's in.
Yeah. 3 or 1.
He or she, depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
Because there are Christians who believe that God is a woman. So, depending on what Christians you ask, it could be he or she. You know what I mean? And this is another thing about religion. It's so weird. Anyway, we're talking about politics. And not religion.
We already discussed religion.
Oh, how these podcasts meander, eh? It's shocking. Good at the same time, though, because it's more like a conversation.
But I mean, I mean, we have talking points, but the whole point of this is to be unscripted.
Yeah.
So,
if we wanted a script, we would not be doing this. If we wanted a script, we would just not be doing this because it wouldn't work. It's
something is occurring to me, that I've seen criticism about the fact that Hawk takes the law into their own hands, but my counter criticism of that is Hawk has to do that because the guard does not do their job half the time. They do not carry out justice the way you're supposed to.
And when faced with ineffectual policing, that is what tends to happen in reality. People will take the law into their own hands.
And that's exactly what we've seen.
Arrests are a thing. There's a reason citizens arrests are a thing. They're exceptional circumstances, but they exist for a reason. Right? And people forget this. There are occasionally situations in which taking the law into your own hands is not only suggested, but necessary. Like, if the police are not going to get to you quick enough, and you have to subdue someone who is putting you at risk, the self-defense thing is there for a reason. Because you've had to take the law into your own hands. Harsh as it sounds,
And there's also, I don't know if it exists there or what it's called there or whatever, but I think it's a different situation. It's not exactly the law, but we call it the Good Samaritan law. Where, basically I can't remember what, if you did something in, the first thing that comes to mind is if someone has had a heart attack, and, you try to give them CPR, and not saying, I mean, this might have happened, but it's just the first example that I've thought of. And they come back to life, and you had to resuscitate them and stuff. If the person tries to sue you saying that you did not have their consent to do that, because and says it was assault or whatever because they did not give their consent, the Good Samaritan law would protect you because your actions were in order to save their life. So it's that's why stuff like that exists. Self-defense, Good Samaritan law, But unfortunately, as we've seen in many instances, sometimes the police or the guard just like the power. So they will not enact certain laws that should protect you. because they like the high that power gives them. And they want to be the ones in the right, and not you. You know,
the system is flawed.
It is very flawed. I have been told by a source I consider to be very reputable that, so on our cars here, the police cars, it says to serve and protect. And I have been told from this source that serve and protect only applies once they're in custody. Technically, that is the law. They do not have an obligation to serve and protect until you are in police custody. How messed up is that?
I mean, I thought that wow.
And lots of people think that serve and protect is like all the time, but technically in their rules,
all the time.
Yeah, it's once you're in police custody.
Wow, that is.
So they're protected by that. They do not have a legal responsibility to serve and protect you until you're in their custody.
Hot steaming cop-related tea coming from Rose tonight. Wow.
And I feel like we're seeing stuff like that in the Guard too.
Is that why so many of them have been allowed away with, like, essentially murdering suspects in the fucking process of arresting them?
Part of it.
Gotten away with it.
That has part of it, but I think there's a lot more to it than just that. There's a lot of like racism. There's greasing of palms. There's people who just want to, like, sheriffs don't have a boss. They do not. They are their own boss. So if you get someone who's power hungry and is the sheriff, yeah, that should not be a position that exists, in my opinion.
And
also, you should have to go to college to be a cop. If you have to go to college to be a doctor, then you should have to go to college to be a cop. But right now, you don't have to.
And I think that there should be some sort of actual training into how to deal with not just people in minorities, but people who are in domestic disputes as well, because there are far too many of those badly dealt with as well. This also comes into the whole idea of people in power and their children of not being held accountable either.
Okay, I'm sorry to do this, but we have to discuss Abilene. Because there's so much love for Abilene. There really is.
She is a bit of a problem.
But we have to talk about how problematic. First of all, she is a cop. We have to say that right up front. She is a cop.
Yep.
And it is people like her that are the reason for the all cops are bad, or all cops are bastards, however you want to say it, because I know that she comes across as this sweet motherly woman or whatever, and yes, she does help Hawk out a lot.
Not quite how I see her, but okay.
But I mean, I felt that way in the beginning. I really did. I loved her. I adored her. I'm like, yes, she's great. And I had some people actually point out actually she's problematic, It
a sort
works.
Of viewer, sorry, just to take a second.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I sort of viewer, and it's kind of been this way the whole time. I mean, yeah, I've liked her and stuff like that, but she's just a walking sword.
I mean, yeah.
She's a walking sword. She's just like the one was built for violence.
She was, yeah. And it's so
reflecting her actions and choices.
As much of a help that it is for Hawk, the stuff that she does, you have to sort of look at it on the outside, like the player is Hawk. Remove the player from Hawk and look at it from the other side. Aveline cleans up Hawk's messes. As any other person, Hawk should be in prison.
Yep. Can anybody say corruption?
Yeah. And how many times does that happen in every day where friends of cops get out of stuff because the cops are able to, like, fix it?
And can anybody else say Donick?
Yeah, that's the other
Because
thing.
she bends the rules and dicks about the things to make his life easier on him because she fancies him. And for anybody else, that would be a sexual harassment suit.
It is. And also, as cute as Donick and Aveline see, it is problematic because she is his boss.
In a position of power. Yep.
She's his boss.
Yep.
They should not be together.
That's why a lot of places sort of almost outlaw workplace romances, because there shouldn't be that sort of inequality between people that could, if imagine somebody takes that back into work with them, and there's been an argument at home and they've broken up, and next thing the person of lower status ends up without a job. It's too easy for people in that position to then go and use their power and abuse it. I mean, the entire reason why Aveline wanted the old guard captain out in the first place was because the motherfucker was corrupt. And yet she goes into the job and...
Which is how it always happens.
And
I don't think... Well, it seems like it happens a lot, though.
Oh, yeah.
Aveline is essentially a sheriff. And aside from, maybe the Viscount, I don't think Aveline has a boss.
No, I think it would come to the same as with Chantry, I would imagine, how... what's her name? Oh, wait a minute. Why am I groping in the air to try and grasp her name out of it? It's not going to come to me that way. The head woman in the Chantry, what is her name?
Althena?
That's the one. I think that's the one.
Really?
That's the head of the Chantry.
I thought the Chantry and the Guard were different.
Yeah, but when you look at how the Chantry helps make decisions for the entire of Kirkwall, which then reflects on how the Guard do their job, it's a trickle down.
I suppose. I don't know. I guess that's neither here nor there. The point is still that Aveline should not be in a relationship with Donick. It's an abuse of power.
Yeah. And
in a way, it's almost like quid pro quo, kind of. Because gives him an easy job just because she likes him. And also sort of uses that in order to get him to notice her. And then forces Hawk into it to get them together.
Because that's... Yeah, exactly. I mean, not only does she use her position of power to manipulate the roster so that she and Donick go on a fucking patrol together, she also then uses Hawk to sort of help her to fix things so that he sees her in a better light. I mean, that's manipulation of the highest order. On all fronts. Frankly, I'm taking a second look at that particular quest in Dragon Age 2 and feeling a little bit icky right now. In fact, more than just a little bit icky right now.
I did it several times because I thought it was cute, and now I'm like, no.
Yeah,
no. One of the things I want to point out that she also does that is upsetting, that kind of goes into the whole, the Guard not doing anything, cops, is the whole, situation at the end of Act 2, where, those, elves go to the Canary to convert. And it's, this whole thing about how, they killed this guy because he raped and killed? Did he also kill their sister?
No. I
don't think so. No? Okay. But and Aveline's like, well, you should have let the Guard handle it. And it's like, but would they have handled it? Because in the past, no, you haven't handled stuff, and especially if you go back to, we'll talk more about this in another episode, but the whole situation with Kelder, where the guard was like, this is a guard matter, you don't belong here, we'll take care of it. And it's like, no, what happens if you don't, it's the magistrate's son. Of course he's gonna get off easy. If just let the guard handle it.
And then there's other people going missing that just so happen to not be rich.
Yeah,
so
but they don't.
The guard does fuck all about it.
Yeah. So, this whole thing has spiraled up to this point. It's like, of course they took justice into their own hands because the guard wasn't doing anything about it.
The guard wasn't doing anything about it for humans. They certainly weren't going to do anything about it for elves.
Yeah.
So they're considered even lower class.
Yeah. I mean, they'll probably do something about it for someone who's wealthy. But, and Aveline seems to have this disillusionment that the guard is great, that they fix all of these issues. And it's like, no.
Just look at how you get onto the quest that ends up in the death of your mother.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how you get onto that quest. There have been people going missing for months. And then one rich bitch goes missing and all of a sudden the guard are all over it.
Not even the guard. Hawk is the one that...
Yeah, exactly, because they didn't want to do the legwork. So they farm it out to Hawk because they know she'll get the job done. Or she, or he, they will... They know Hawk will get the job done.
Yeah. That's, I mean... Hawk's the only one that's doing shit.
Yep.
Ugh. I have issues with that point.
I have issues with the guard and, all of them, really.
Well, Aveline does basically everything that the guard does. Mm-hmm. So, I think we're supposed to, because Aveline is Hawk's friend, I mean, you can actually punch her, but you can, they've got the whole gambit there. You can kiss her or you can punch her.
Is it really bad that I'm kind of feeling the desire to do the latter and punch her in the face?
No, I don't think it's bad. But I guess they did the same thing with Solus. You can punch him or kiss him. Either one.
Who's punching Solus? Who do I need to punch?
There are lots of people punching Solus.
I'm sorry, I sort of understand where he's coming from. I'm just saying.
I understand Solus more than I understand Aveline.
Mm-hmm.
So... And that says something, because, I'm not a huge Solus fan.
Mm-hmm. Another thing, I'm not sure how this plays into the whole thing, but it just occurred to me tonight when you said that Aveline's a cop. She's not just a cop, she's a cop with a military background.
Yes, you are right. That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
That is scary.
I mean, Aveline wasn't just trained to protect and serve, as it were. She was trained to kill.
That's terrifying. Oh my god, I can't believe I didn't think about that.
It just occurred to me when you said how cop-like she is. I was like, yeah, but not just a cop with a military background.
Okay.
And quite a high-level military background, given where she was.
Oh my gosh, I wonder if that's... Mm-hmm. I'm sure that's happened where someone was in the military and then they were in the... Oh. Okay.
Military to police transfers, or where people will become a civilian after leaving the military and then become a policeman. That happens quite a lot.
Oh god, I feel like that should be illegal. Oh, that is terrifying.
Especially when you consider how disproportionate the amount of mental health issues there are in in veterans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
Then they are then put in position, frankly, anybody who's been in the position where they are in an active war zone, where they've actually been shot at other people, where they have almost died or have killed other people, or have seen other people that they cared about killed, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do not know when the day is going to come when their brain's going to go, okay, I can't cope with this anymore.
Yep.
And pop. And then you have a very dangerous situation on your hands, because you have a person who now is in a civilian uniform, essentially, because policemen, while they're policemen, are still essentially civilians, they're not military. So you have someone who is in a position of power, in a uniform, with weaponry, who can do whatever the fuck they want at that point.
Oh, I just got sick. I just started feeling sick. Oh my gosh, that should be illegal, I think.
Happens a lot over here as well. Ex-military joining the police.
Ugh.
It's quite the trend, as it were.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
And I mean, I have nothing against soldiers, right? Nothing at all. That my concern is for them, as well as for other people. Like, I've seen it happen where soldiers have been out of active duty for years before something snaps and they go off the deep end.
Oh yeah.
It's not their fault. It's inadequate fucking mental health services for veterans. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
That and inadequate mental health services for the services. You know? And I think to a certain extent that includes the police. Like, they don't have adequate mental health support. They deal with some pretty fucking horrific shit. And they don't have adequate mental health backup. It's ridiculous. It's how a lot of this shit goes under the radar.
All of this stuff could be, well, not all of it, because I think there's always going to be some issues, but a lot of this could be solved by defunding the police, making the police a position you have to go to college for, giving them proper training, and also providing adequate mental health services.
Mm-hmm. And here's an idea. Don't incentivize arrest records.
Yep.
Like the amount of people you can arrest and put away. Don't incentivize that shit. We should be incentivizing rehabilitation.
Let's move on to the next one. This is really depressing.
Because it goes from fun to more fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's all depressing. Well, no. I mean, I guess there's the general racism, but I feel like we've kind of touched on that. I mean, and also it's literally everywhere. Like, a huge part of the plot is on the basis of racism, I guess. Mm-hmm. And, like, elves and stuff, and they're
pointed out quite early on that the city of Kirkwall was built on slavery.
Oh yeah, which is so much, like, you know, in so many places around the world, there are so many institutions and stuff that are built around slavery. Mm-hmm. You know, the White House was built by slaves. You know? But it's like, oh, it's the White House, it's so great. I was like, it was built by slaves.
I was watching a documentary the other night about Holloway Prison in London, right? And when it was originally built, how they punished prisoners was separation and silence, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of manual labour. Mm-hmm. This manual labour was expected to be carried out in silence. Like, you weren't allowed to talk to anyone. And you were put in these, like, it was almost like a pod. It's like little sectioned off bits where you stand on a step and you do your job for this amount of hours in silence. And you just do it. And that was why there were a lot of, specifically in, like, the Victorian age, that was why there were a lot of people in prisons, because it was even cheaper than cheap labor. It was free.
Yeah, which goes back to the point that I said before, is like, it is slavery. It is modern day slavery. Prison was all a solution for slavery.
These days, from what I gather, not having any personal experience of it, they are, I put it in air quotes, paid, right? But what they get is pittance. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's can barely call it payment, frankly.
No, it's like 25 cents a day over here, something like that.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And it's like, oh, save this up and you can buy yourself something at the end of the month.
And I mean, like, a lot of the way that Fenris talks about his treatment is very similar to how black people were treated as slaves, and even still today are treated.
Even, and this is going to again lean into the topic that we're covering in the next episode, but even the way he goes on about how he's treated, I mean, he doesn't go into specifics, but he just makes it very obvious that there's something very, 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 very iffy there too.
Yeah, we will get into that the next episode as well.
Because that was rampant back then.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Quite a lot of people who are mixed race created roundabout then.
I think they say in America there is a lot of people that are descended from Jefferson because of that.
And then you take into consideration the fact that they would actually, and they put it this way themselves, breed themselves new slaves.
Yeah, that's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting.
They'd be like, oh, we'll put you with you because you're strong and you're pretty, so there we go. You know, it's like a breeding program for cattle. It was disgusting.
Ugh. That's exactly what they were doing. They were treating them like cattle.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they saw them.
Yeah, they were considered just another farm tool.
Oh.
Or, you know, another commodity to be traded like fucking Pokemon cards. And the fact that in some places in the world, that shit still goes on under the radar.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Sorry, again, the elf is getting heated.
No, I knew this was going to be a heated conversation. We knew that going in. This is...
Yeah.
Deep and dark, and this was like one of the main episodes that we wanted to talk about when we first started this.
Yeah, I know.
And I mean, when you know, going back to like Kirkwall being built on slavery, it's not just that it was built on slavery. There are remnants of it that are super obvious. There are statues. There are wall paintings. It's almost like they're proud of it, and. That's
there are paintings, there are statues, almost like they're proud of it. You mean like the ones that people have been going fucking batshit crazy about people ripping down in America recently?
Yeah, that's exactly the correlation that's exactly the comparison I was gonna make.
Why am I not shocked?
That's, you know, it's like America is proud of this or something. They say we're not, but...
Oh, UK's proud of it as well, you know. I mean, they're not, and outwardly they'll say they're not, but you go to try and tear down a fucking slaver's statue anywhere in England and you'll hear hell for it.
I mean, you know what? This is actually perfect timing because we are filming this, recording this on Indigenous Peoples Day, which is what we're calling it from now, formerly Columbus Day. That we have a holiday. Thankfully, it's being depopularized now. Thankfully, and it's now a holiday to celebrate Indigenous people. Thank God. But
yeah, thank fuck for that, because personally, I don't like how, you know, Christopher the Rapist Day fits in my mouth.
You know, I remember in school we would have we'd read about Columbus, we'd have plays about Columbus, and we'd have Columbus Day to celebrate this, and it's like, why? It's just another one of those symbols, like, we're proud of it or something. Or when you think about, you know, Thanksgiving, it's, you know, Thanksgiving has problematic backgrounds, too, and we have I think Thanksgiving...
stealing all of this land from the Indigenous people.
I think Thanksgiving is a little easier to sort of, you know...
Stomach?
Not stomach, but we can sort of turn it into a different kind of holiday. We can turn it into a holiday being thankful for the stuff that we have.
Change the intention.
Yes, change the intention. And that's why I don't feel bad about celebrating Thanksgiving. But at the same time, is because we changed the intention. But also, I think it's important to recognize what the history of Thanksgiving is.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and understand it has a dark history.
If you don't recognize the background of something, how can you make sure that shit doesn't happen again?
Yeah.
How can you make sure that you don't repeat your mistakes if you don't understand them first?
I mean, even if we get down to, maybe it's not exactly the same thing, but it's along the lines of cultural appropriation. You know, I love Christmas. I adore Christmas. But it was appropriated from the pagans.
You're welcome. Or should I say, you're welcome.
Oh, you got some jokes. You got some jokes.
I'm just gonna, yeah, definitely. Oh, do you know what I would love to get for Christmas this year? But I'm not gonna. Maybe next year. What? Dragon Age 4, bitches! BioWare, give me my game!
There we go, there it is. There it is.
I had to get it in somewhere. I had to get it in somewhere, and I had to sort of figure out my own wee segue, and I thought Christmas was the best place to do that.
Oh.
I have a quota to fill that doesn't involve locking people up. At least not that I admit.
Oh. I mean,
we'll see.
That's a dark joke.
We'll see BioWare.
Oh.
If you could see my face right now, I look mildly murderous. I'm slightly terrified of myself.
Okay, our last point.
Yes.
The all-encompassing, branching all over the games.
Oh, yeah.
But I think you see it really heated into an Inquisition, mages versus Templars.
Well, let's be honest, it reaches boiling point into, and that's when the lid of the kettle comes flying off, or should I say the lid of the chantry. I'm sorry, it's a really bad joke, and I'm not shouldn't laugh, because essentially it was a terrorist act, but it was hilarious to me, okay?
It's like the top of the chantry was blown off or something.
Yeah, like, boom, I was just...
Which I think Anders is a good... I mean, Anders had, like, other influences going on and stuff, but I think it's a good metaphor of, like, when you push someone to... You oppress someone so much that they end up doing illegal stuff because nobody is listening.
When you push somebody so hard and they feel like they have no justice, eventually their desire for justice will burn so bright it will burn them, and something will happen. And you know something? Anders is the perfect example of that. If you take away somebody's ability to get justice for whatever reason, whatever kind of justice that may be, if you remove their ability, that is going to fucking scar them. Differences will be measurable, viewable in this person after that, because they've had their entire hope in the world pretty much crushed. You know, the natural progression of things is meant to be cause to effect. You know, injustice must be met with justice, right? He doesn't see that. He doesn't get that. So he's living in an environment where there is no justice to be fought for mages. There's none. They're kept underneath the boot of the chantry and whoever the fuck is in charge of the country that they're in. And then, you know, they're useful tools. Useful tools, but nothing else. And God forbid they should have independent thought and free will.
No, instead they just lock them up in circles.
Yeah. Oh, you're different. No, we'll put you here. So you don't infect the rest of them. Because
they are genuinely afraid of them, because they could... I will admit they do have the power to hurt if they so choose, but so does everyone else. They just have like a different,
skill set in order to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, Joe Blogs on the streets got a sword and a bow and arrow and, like, some throwing knives. They've got a handful of spells, but they have to keep their ability to do the spells up by taking fucking lyrium. You know, it's not exactly an easy situation. They're like batteries. That's fucking exactly what they're like. They're like batteries, each with their own individual skill set of what they can power and how they can do these things. And when their energy's used up, it's back to where you went until you're feeling better and you're full of lyrium and we can use you again.
You know, I've seen before, you know, people on the internet trying to make the argument for Templars and
fuck those people.
mages.
I'm sorry, but fuck those people.
Yeah, I know. But one of the things that they say is like, well, mages having this power and stuff is the same thing as like guns, and that's why we need gun control, we need mage control.
No,
and it's like, no, you can't compare things.
Do you want to know how? Nobody's fucking born with a gun in their hand.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. You can't compare the two because these, I mean, I think we have to point out at the end of the day, this is just a game, but it's a very important game because of the messages that it carries. People are not born with guns. You can't compare people, you know, and I mean, you could say, I don't know, like, people could possibly have some sort of mental illness issue that does encourage them to be violent.
Right.
However,
there are definitely certain mental illnesses out there that do have a more violent, you know, expression. But a lot of them are dealt with by people who have actually got really big fucking hearts and who it would kill to do anything to anyone. So they make sure that they keep themselves in check.
Medication and therapy, which I think is what the Templars are supposed to be, but they're not executing it in the right way.
No, it's fucking prison for witches.
Exactly.
And especially so in Kirkwall. I mean, at least in like the Ferelden Circle and stuff like that, before it got locked down, they were allowed to go out and do things. They were allowed to go and work for other people and, you know, go and explore and research and all this kind of shit. They could do that once they had become fully fledged mages. Right?
Make the circle a school. Make it a school.
Yeah, a school, I am happy with that. You know, like a Hogwarts dotted left, right, and centre. I'm happy with that shit. But don't turn it into Azkaban.
If you even have to go a step further, make it a boarding school, but still allow them to go out and have lives. Yeah. And like once you feel that they are knowledgeable enough and mature enough and able to handle their magic, then set them off into the world.
And I'll say this, and I don't often, you know me, with the exception of my darling old computer game love of my life, that is Cullen Rutherford. I don't like Templars, right? But the same goes for them. Don't fucking lock them up in the chantry from a ridiculously young age and pump them full of this bullshit and, you know, just expect them to be fully functioning human beings. Because that's not how fully functioning human beings work. And then you fully dose them up on lyrium so that they can do their job, causing them to become addicted. Mages, I think it works differently in a mage body than it does in a Templar body, because mages are literally built to process it. But so they literally create a fucking generations upon generations of junkies and expect them to be fully functioning members of this fucking society they've created, where these people have to guard these people everybody's scared of. It's essentially, it would be this is a fucking extreme example, but can you imagine if you walked into, say, what's that, what's the name of that fucking prison? Name me a famous prison in America somewhere.
Alcatraz.
Right, okay. Well, back when Alcatraz was still working, right? Like, imagine if they had gone in there and pumped up all of the guards with, do you know much Marvel?
Do I know much? Do I know what?
Marvel, Captain America?
Oh, yeah.
Right. They go in there and they pump all the fucking guards full of the same super soldier serum that Steve Rogers got filled with.
Yep.
It's the same shit.
Yep.
It's the same shit, except these people that are in the prison have got extra special abilities. Like, so we'll say, like, it's a high security, right? For people that are really sneaky and really capable of doing shit that nobody else can do. And then you go in and you, like, super soldier the fucking... the police guard... the prison guards. It's essentially the same thing.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's ridiculous. And it's not good for the Templars either.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not.
So that's the one place where I'm like, oh, poor Templars, and the rest I'm like, you chose it. And then I remember, most of them didn't choose it. Mummy and Daddy couldn't afford them when they had like 4 other siblings, so they went, oh, there you go, off to the Chantry, you can be a Templar.
Yeah.
Not all of them are as lucky as Cullen and getting to choose what they wanted.
No, of course not. No, we've seen that there are those that didn't want to be. I mean, Alistair didn't really. He was never like happy about it.
Oh fuck no, he hated it.
Yeah,
he hated being in the Templars. I mean, he was desperate to get out. That's why when Duncan was like, "Yeah, I'll take him," he was like, "Yes." That's why he became so closely bonded to Duncan. Because he hated being in the Templars, because it was so fucking restrictive and so hideous. I mean, it's just a horrible way. That's no way to treat children.
Nope.
You're militarizing children from a young age. Although now we're sort of talking about, like, feudal era Japan and China and shit like that. We're talking like that kind of shit, where they routinely did that.
Well, that kind of stuff has happened time and time again throughout history in many other places. I mean,
Vikings for. I mean, I'm gonna expose my own ancestors here, but Vikings were pretty much like handed swords and shields at 3 and 4 years old and expected to learn how to catch up with everybody else. Not in a super harsh way. Like it wasn't you'll go out there and drill from 6 in the morning until 5 o'clock at night and then eat and then bed. That wasn't like that. It was a lot more community based than that. It was a lot more sort of like the kids were all playing with each other and that was how they were learning, and then we'd move on. But it was back then though, things were very different, you know. There wasn't a society as such to be a part of. That was before there was before the world became more globalized. Daft as that sounds, since it's a globe, but I think you get what I mean.
No, I get you. And I mean, the way that things sort of build up, like from the mages, like from the beginning, like things just build and build and build, and the tensions get bigger and stuff and all that, to like this big battle between the mages and the Templars in the end. It is impossible to not see the similarities between this and the Black Lives Matter protests. I mean, civil rights protests throughout history, really. But this is the most recent, this is the thing that's honestly, in many ways, still happening right now, you know, that we're seeing. Oh man, like, after I played it, the last time I played it, after all of this happened, I could not see it in the same light. You know, and
when you think about it, look at the way that non-mages, specifically chantry-based non-mages, look at or describe mages, right? A lot of derogatory terminology, a lot of rumours, a lot of slanderous things, like a lot of stereotypes. And then you look at the bullshit stereotypes that people come out with about black people. You know?
Yep.
You can draw that comparison, right?
Yep.
Like, for example, one way where people like to be like, it sounds like they're complimenting them, but they're not, because it's a fallacy, right? Is the whole black men have bigger dicks thing.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. Everybody has a different size dick. Dick's your dick. Doesn't matter what fucking colour you are.
Well, that, and I think that could add pressure, make people feel awful if they don't, like, live up to that stereotype.
Yep.
It's very harmful to basically everyone. It's harmful to, white people who have penises, to, like, feel like they can't live up to that, but it's also harmful to people of color who have penises they can't
feel like they can't live up to it. Yeah,
it's harmful all over.
Yes, it is. But it's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's there's a word. It's a tactic. It's a tactic to dehumanize them.
Yep.
Like, that's why do you think there are always so many whispers, even in circles, especially among the Templars, about who's a blood maid and who isn't? And usually, you'll find it's the ones that they don't like most that are the outsiders, the ones that don't spend an awful lot of time mixing with other people. I say this because it's been made clear quite a few times that this is how people see people like me. It's quite often said about the weirdos, the outsiders, and the ones that don't fit in. Like, the ones that would... The autistic coded characters, if you want me to be completely blatant about it. Right? They're always the blood maidies. Or suspected blood maidies.
And that's how we get a witch hunt.
Yeah. Literally.
Literally, yeah, no, literally, and it's happened literally in history. I think,
Salem.
Yeah, I think it even, like, that was more of a woman thing, like, women who weren't acting as they thought women should, then they got blamed or whatever. I mean, there's still some talk in there about whether or not it was wheat or some kind of poisoning. Starts with an E. Ergot poisoning. But anyway, that's an entirely different story. But and I think it's easy to look at it because of the Black Lives Matter protests that are happening right now. It's easy to make the comparison and be like, oh, this is based on racial tension, or like between people of color and white people. But considering how the chantry plays into it so much, it might be more of a metaphor for the treatment towards LGBT folk.
I'd also take a second to point out that there are actually, because this is a thing that I see as well, not just LGBT people, but again, neurodivergent people.
Well, it's a general metaphor for people of a privileged treatment of a privileged group over a marginalized group, especially one they were born as. I think it could be applied to anything. It can be applied to race. It can be applied to LGBT. It can be applied to neurodivergent. It can be applied to religion.
Yep.
Like anything.
Absolutely.
Anytime there's going to be a group A and a group B, you can apply it to this situation if there's tension.
I think the main reason at the moment and I know this is going to sound self-centered as fuck, but I think the main reason at the moment why the autism thing keeps popping into my head in comparison to this is because at the moment there are a lot of protests going on because of autistic children being restrained and shocked as punishment for outbursts.
Oh my god, that's awful. This is happening in the UK?
It's happening. No, I don't think it's the UK.
I mean, I know that there have been incidents like that have happened, but like, I didn't hear anything about protest. I mean, I'm glad that there are people speaking out against this. I just didn't hear anything.
I believe the movement's called Stop the Shock.
Okay.
Just give me a sec. Quick. But there are petitions. It's a whole thing. And it's an American thing.
Oh, but that doesn't surprise me. That does not surprise me.
There was a ban but it was overturned in July this year.
Oh, fuck. I'm gonna have to read up about this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that... It's interesting that you keep making that comparison because, the whole tranquil thing, that could be, like, shock therapy.
Yep.
Or even, like, for, LGBT folk. Sedation. Conversion therapy. Like...
Yep. In other words, it is don't be who you were when you were born.
Yeah.
Whichever way that we can get that. It's... Yeah. I mean, ABA falls under that as well. That's, applied behavioural something, I think. I can't remember exactly what it... Anyway, it's an abusive fucking tactic for making autistic people fit in.
Okay.
It doesn't help. All it does is turn people into yes bots. It actually makes people more compliant to people of authority, which is actually quite a big problem because it can actually lead to a rise in sexual assault.
It's the most widely used therapy for autism. Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
Yep, and we are, by far, the most easily influenced. We are massively easily... Well, I can only really speak for myself personally, right? I'm going to say that right off here. I don't want anybody else calling me out. But I am naive as fuck. Have been my whole life. My mum and dad used to constantly go on about how easily led I was. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I know my own fucking limitations there.
Mm-hmm.
And see, when you're a kid, you don't. You don't know that it's you being gullible. You don't know that it's you being easily manipulated. You don't know that, first of all, none of this shit's your fault. And secondly, other people are making things more difficult than they need to be. If instead of forcing them to be like everybody else, they were just, making slight changes around them, that would make everyone's life easier. But instead they force them to be like everybody else, and then, 30 years down the line, they end up in a state of elongated, drawn-out, autistic burnout where they physically can't function properly for years. Speaking from personal experience here. There's so much this situation could be applied to from the game. I think I personally see it more from an autistic point of view because I am autistic and because people are like, oh, don't autistic people have special abilities? Well, some of them do, just like some other normal people.
I agree with you. I admit that I did not see the side of this, but I mean, I think in general you could apply it to any marginalized group. Mm-hmm. But no, you are absolutely right. Like
I said, I think the only reason why I go at it this hard from this angle is because I am autistic.
I understand you. Like I experienced some sort of like, I don't know if discrimination's the right word, but like just from having anxiety, and I wasn't diagnosed till I was 19, but I'm pretty sure I had it my whole life. And then it just kind of reared its ugly head when my dad died, and that kind of triggered it, and I basically exploded in anxiety.
That would make sense.
But there was a lot of stuff that was, happening where I acted different or whatever, or I was told, like, why can't you just do this? Why can't you just, talk on the phone? Why can't you just, why do we have to do this for you or whatever? Like, a lot of that. And I'm not saying that people should do stuff for me. I think I need to develop the tools to try to work on that myself. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of meeting in the middle that we have to do. Like, I have to go a little bit and someone else has to come a little bit. So we can meet in the middle.
They also have to take it, those people, whoever is coming to meet you in the middle, also has to take into consideration that on occasion, they are going to have to come that little bit further.
Mm-hmm.
That they are going to have to sometimes step in to do things for you. And it's when... Right, this is something I've struggled with my whole life, right? I because I have so often in my life had to ask other people to help me and been met with all of the same arguments you just gave, right?
Yep.
I've come to the conclusion now where I'm like, right, okay, people are just unreliable then. And that's a horrible way to feel. That is a horrible, horrible way to feel.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, because of the way they've made me feel, and because I'm sure you've felt this yourself, you feel like a burden.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Like, on top of the fact that you're already going through this shit, you have to deal with the fact that they can't put up with your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Like, and this is where other people's lack of empathy really gets me. And I understand, you know, not being able to... I say this often. People don't, and it doesn't just go for people like me. Nobody truly understands the situation until they've been through it themselves.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
But that's not a good enough excuse to not give people the benefit of the doubt and the empathy that they deserve and need to be able to deal with the situation that they're in. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean you can't support them through it.
You shouldn't have to go through something in order to care about it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for the love of... that would mean that the only people that could deal with any form of racism was the particular fucking racial group being attacked at that time. That would mean that none of the rest of us could care.
Yeah.
It's not, it doesn't make any sense. Humanity's fucked, man. Sorry.
No, you're right. You're right. And a lot of, here's the thing, a lot of what you're saying can be applied to anything. Like, one of the things that really, like, that my husband and I really talk about, like, one of the things that makes our marriage work, and it's actually marriage advice that I give to anyone, is that you need to understand that it's not just 50-50 all the time. Marriages aren't 50-50. A lot of times that could be it, but there are times when one person can only give 20. Then you have to give 80. And then sometimes it shifts. Like, maybe your partner can only give 20, so then you have to go 80, you know? And you have to, like, keep flipping it. Like, you have to basically put in... You know, there are days where it constantly changes, you know? I've had days where I can only give so much. When that happens, my husband jumps in and gives more. And then we have plenty of days where we're giving equal amounts, you know? And then I've seen also as well the 60-40 relationship, where you give just a little bit more. You don't sacrifice your own needs and all that, but you give just a little bit more attention to your partner. Just a little bit more. And that has, honestly, I think that applies for so many things in life. Relationships, it applies for friendships, it applies for situations like we were talking about, like mental health, you know, and neurodivergency and stuff. Give just a little bit more than you would give yourself.
There always has to be room for compromise in everything as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can't always think that you know everything. And I don't, you know, when I say you, I don't mean you.
Yeah, I know. You mean the general you.
Yeah, the general you. You can't always think that you know everything. Because you don't. Nobody does. There is nobody on this planet that knows everything. And if there is that person, call me because we need to have some conversations. No, because there's shit I need to know. There really is shit I need to know. Like, am I the only person who believes that slippers are actually pajamas for your feet? I need to know if there are other people who think this.
Oh my god, you just blew my mind. They totally are.
Exactly, right? Slippers are pajamas for your feet. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh my god, they are.
See? And why is it that giraffes evolved to only get the leaves at the top of trees? What was wrong with the leaves at the bottom?
This is turning into a philosophy podcast. I'm kind of...
Yeah.
Wow.
I was here for a little bit, like, whoa, what's happening? It's okay. We can do... That's a conversation we can leave for another time. That's just how the elf brain works. That's all I'm saying.
Well, honestly, I think that little lightheartedness and stuff, that's a good way to end this podcast.
Yeah,
end this episode.
Especially since next week the next episode we're going in fucking hard on a seriously shitty topic. So
just a little advance warning. The second half, because we could not fit all of this into one episode because there's just too much. But the next episode is going to be covering sexual assault. If that is a trigger for you, do not listen, because we're going to be getting in depth. We will also put a trigger warning on the front of that episode as well, but I'm telling you right now, do not listen to our next episode if that is something that upsets you.
Please, as a survivor myself,
we both are.
Personally, as survivors ourselves, who are personally strong enough to discuss this topic, we understand not everybody will be. So, genuinely, from the bottom of our hearts, while we understand if you want to listen, if it's going to be something which is going to cause you any form of distress, please don't, for your own sake. Do we have a question this week, Rose?
Oh, man. Why don't we ask... I mean, we don't have one, but if we can come up with something that's a little lighthearted, because I don't want to ask something that's heavy. But, I guess it could kind of be in between. Okay, what about Dragon Age 2, or, I mean, I guess Dragon Age in general, what really spoke to you in real-life relevance?
Yeah, that works. That's a good question.
Or what could you apply to your real life? Like, however you want to turn that, it could be something as simple as Alistair's love of cheese. Really spoke to me.
Cheese. See, now you got to think about cheese again. And Alistair. It's the hair, really man. Good. There's just something cheese about the hair.
He is quite a cheesy fella.
Hey. Be nice about my Alistair.
I never said that was a bad thing.
I'm just saying. Be nice about my Alistair. I cannot bear the idea of anybody being horrid to him.
Oh my god!
Enough of me and my cheesy jokes.
That's it. We're done. That's it. We're leaving.
Thank you all so much for joining us for this conversation. If you stayed to the end, you're a legend, and if you've enjoyed yourselves, make sure to smack that like button on the tube of you with a quick stone fist and subscribe. Ring the ding-a-ling so you get all of our uploads there, and if you don't, well then may the dread will take you.
We do hope you'll join us again, and if you're listening somewhere other than YouTube and want to make sure you can, please do subscribe or follow, rate us, and leave a review.
We love to hear what you guys have to say. It helps us to make this podcast better for you, and at the end of the day, that means a lot to us. If you want to contact us, you can follow us on our Twitter at LOTFDAPOD, or feel free to email us at LeftOfTheFade@gmail.com.
We hope you have a fantastic week ahead, and with all the blessings of Andraste and the Maker.
And the light of El Garnan and Nathal to guide your way, may Silays keep your Arabelle warm and full.
Remember that you're ridiculously awesome. We'll see you next time we journey to the left of the fade.
Goodbye!